Okay, I am back. Hopefully the stream is working now. Wizzy could not hear the stream. I thought it was a me issue, but it seems like Golden Racing League, sorry, Golden Racing Callum could hear the stream, so I don't know what's happening. Hopefully you can unmute if other people are having issues. I have missed the first part of qualifying as I was watching the stream. Hopefully, Wizzy was the first one to come out, as he always is. You can actually check ourselves who the first car is, and it is a Wizzy in the V carb. Like I said, a Wizzy always goes out first. It is his personal fascination to always be the first car on track. I don't know why, but I'm gonna let him have it because it's his own thing to do. He will be our first car to set the time on the grid unless he invalidates his lap. Currently, Pontic, our championship leader, is not present. We only have Kursk and Lone Wolf, two championship competitors. Behind them in the standings is going to be not Josh, but Brian. Brian is the teammate of Pontic, who's been having a great run as of late. Brian is he's fifth place in the championship order with 99 points. He is closing in on Josh and slowly approaching Kursk, Pontic, and Lone Wolf. Is it going to rain? I do not know. I can't tell. Hopefully it doesn't because I am getting sick of rain races. I would like a dry race. Singapore probably is not the best dry race, honestly. It might honestly be better in the wets, but at this point, I don't care. I want it to be dry. Owizzy is currently on his lap. He's going to set purples as he's the only person to do a lap at the current moment. Lone Wolf is asking for rain. I believe Lone Wolf might have won a race just by the fact of having the best cornering in Silverstone, if I'm correct. I can actually check race results myself. And in the British Grand Prix, which was wet, Lone Wolf actually did win. And in the wall goes a Williams. Has to back out of it to regain the position. Wizzy is going to cross the line soon. He set a purple sector 2. It seems like he's still holding it. He might lose it. But Wizzy is going to cross the line soon. Probably going to be P1, honestly. There's honestly no other position he can possibly go as he's the only car out right now. But as I was saying, Lone Wolf probably is going to want rain as he was able to win the Silverstone Grand Prix because of the wets. Wizzy sets the first time, a 132.9. Good time, good baseline. Our next car to cross the finish line is Sinophi with a 131.7. 5/10, significant, a whole second up. Kursk with a 129.8, another 2 seconds up. A Mercedes is going to be next, of TTV with a 131.8. I believe Leah Plays is our next car out, who is not, I lied, is actually going to be Marshaller. Or I'm wrong. I'm sorry, I get confused with the blues. Too many blues in this game. It was, in fact, Starnick. Starnick, who is the lone Alpine out right now, as his teammate, the Diamond Bullet, is injured and is unable to race for the foreseeable future as he needs to get his wheel back. Starnick puts it P4. He is our Grand Prix winner in Imola. Marshaller, coming off great form, was our podium sitter in Silverstone with a P3 performance. Leah Plays is reporting controller issues, and she's asking to be rejoined. You can, in fact, rejoin. Just ask me when you get back. I will invite you. Lone Wolf has it's that time. Lone Wolf is our most recent Grand Prix winner for Tier 2, I believe. Yes, they are. Lone Wolf is looking to take the championship lead from Pontic as Pontic is unable to attend this race. They're going to set a time now and put it in with a 131.9. Not near Kursk with 129, but enough for P5. Leah Place has rejoined. Tripia is going to be our last car out. I do not know if Leah Place is going to be able to set a lap as I think she retired. I don't know if you're able to not retire when you leave the lobby, so honestly it might have just been like a forced situation. Maybe if you were in the pit lane, you could have left without having to retire, but honestly, I've never done it. So it's sad to see, but she might have to start P10 as long as Trip Yacht sets a lap, which he will be doing soon. Drivers come back into the pit. The tire deg in Singapore is way too long to the tire deg in Singapore is so bad it's practically impossible to set a second lap in a row. Trip Yachts crosses the line. Actually doesn't. Trip Yachts was on an out lap the entire time. Forgive me, Trip Yachts. Trip Yachts is now doing their lap now. He was on an out lap the entire time, and I was talking to talk. Leah Play sadly is unable to set a lap as she retired. Xenophi used the wrong setup, but apparently it's okay. And if anything happens, Xenophi can now blame the setup. And Trip Yachts invalidates his lap coming into the chicanes of between sectors 1 and 2. Has to come back into the pits as soon as possible because he cannot set a lap at his current time. Starnick and Lone Wolf are still out, but they are coming into the pits now. Everyone else is still in the pit lane waiting for their time to come back out. Trip Yachts is the lone car pushing, however his lap has been invalidated. 10 cars on the grid is a great place to be as a driver. You are already in the top 10. All you have to do is not crash out. As long as you don't crash, you're going to finish in the top 10. And if anyone else crashes, that's a free position gained on you. As long you can finish dead last and still be 10th. If someone crashes, you're now 9th. If 2 people crash, you're now 8th, and yada yada yada. Singapore is a pretty difficult track in my opinion. It's not like a track similar to Japan or Qatar that's a heavy wheel track. I think Singapore is possible with a controller. I think the issue is how you brake and accelerate. If you're able to brake and accelerate well each lap, you should be really fine. But the issue is it's very difficult to do it consistently. So it's a very intensive track. It's not simple. It's constant braking, constant accelerating, and that's why people's lap times vary significantly per lap. Someone added me in the Discord. I wonder if it's important. It was not important. It was a social post. Anyways, 10 drivers on the grid, 9 still qualifying, 1 retirement. Kursk is our leader of a 129. I am also hoping Leah Play's controller works, as it'll be very sad if she has to retire immediately. Singapore is also an incredibly difficult track to overtake, especially in the dries. You pretty much only have one opportunity. It's on these 2 straights here. This is the first straight. Currently we're watching Trip Yachts do it. This is the first straight I will possibly overtake on. And the second straight will be the main straight. Both of them have DRS zones. I believe there's also a straight later, however, they're too short in my opinion to effectively overtake on. Enough to keep you with the driver, but unless they make a huge mistake, you're probably not going to get a good overtake on them. Here's the main straight like we just saw. Trip Yachts actually improves to P7, putting Leah Plays down to P10. It's going to be a V-Carb 7.9. In the constructors, which I have never mentioned before, I don't know why, we currently have 2 V-Carbs and 2 Williams out. Williams have had great form lately with Marshaller's podium. Leah Plays also podiumed in Imola, the same race Starnick won. However, let's see the Constructors Championships. Right now, V-Carb has an advantage as they have both drivers, which other drivers do not. Williams. Our Constructors Champion at the current moment is Haas. This can be attributed to Pontic, who is our current championship leader, and Brian, who is probably the current best second driver. He is coming to form, and he might eventually rival Pontic, but at the current moment, he's around P4, P5, but he's putting in good races. No insult to Brian. Brian, however, when and it hits the wall, Trip Yachts might have wing damage. He does not. Very surprised. Kursk improves on his time, 3/10 up to a 129.6. As I was saying, Pontic and Brian's combination of 2 good drivers have put them P1 in the Constructors, Haas, by a significant margin. The closest team is McLaren with Lone Wolf. Looks like McLaren has not had a consistent second driver. Kicksauber, who is represented by Kursk, also only has a consistent single driver. Williams, who have two drivers who are on the grid right now, after their podium performances earlier, are P4. They're actually really close to P3. Sorry, yeah, close to P3. Alpine, who have two drivers consistently, Starnik and Diamond Bullet have had great performances. They're P5. Aston Martin, who is not on the grid right now, I think. They are not. However, they're P6. It seems like they have not shown up since Qatar. Mercedes, P8. Ferrari, P9. Very depressing to see as a Ferrari fan. We have one Ferrari right now, Sinofai. He is currently 6th in the qualifying session. And Oracle Red Bull Racing, P10. I do not believe we have had a Red Bull in a while. I've not seen one. Currently, no major improvements. We have Kursk P2, Brian P3. I don't remember that happening, so maybe that was a major improvement. Lone Wolf P3, Starnik P4, Marshaller P5. Marshaller has been getting P5s consistently lately, in my opinion. Sinofai P6, TTV P7, and the V-Carbs P8 and P9 with Leah played retirement. Currently, there should be a mass amount of laps being done. I believe Lone Wolf is on a lap. We can see soon as he exits Sector 2 what he's currently on. The Ferrari might also be on a lap. He is not coming into the pit lane. If I can find out who this V-Carb is. Let's go back to Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf is going to cross Sector 2. 6 seconds up, so this is an in-lap, and I was being dramatic. Currently, there's 5 minutes on the clock, and as drivers enter the pit lane, there is enough time to do one more lap. So Kursk has one more opportunity to improve on his time. He is currently 4/10 up on Brian. Brian's had a great performance, only being 4/10 off pole, which seems like a lot. However, in Tier 2, with the varying skill level between drivers, 4/10 is pretty close. 6/10, another 7/10 down Lone Wolf, who is trying his best to beat a new championship leader off Pontic. However, I believe as long as Lone Wolf finishes behind Kursk, he should still take the lead, while Kursk should not overtake Pontic unless he wins the race. Anything can happen. Hard racing here, while not discouraged, is risky. If you race hard, you have to know that there is a chance you're both going into the wall. So not that you can't hard race. I actually prefer hard racing. I love hard racing. I just don't like when people take each other out on purpose. But if two rivals are hard racing and they end up in a wall, that's just good racing in my opinion. It does suck, but you know, it's like watching Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton in Monza. It happens when it happens. Brian, currently P2. He's going to try his best to overtake into turn 1 if he does not improve to pole. Kursk is still on pole. Starnik is starting his lap now. He is currently P4. He is 5/10 off Lone Wolf. That is a lot of time to find. However, I think he can do it. He could, in fact, spoil the championship competition. He seems to be the only driver out, as TTV has invalidated their lap in front of us. Awizzy 3/10 up into Sector 2. That already puts them P8, approving upon their teammate. They are still going. I believe Starnik is also in Sector 2. He is right behind Awizzy, actually. Both of them at the same time. Awizzy was the first person to the time. It's the time he still has. Going into the tricky tunnel section, bridge section, whatever it's called, onto the second straight. Well, I will consider straight, technically. Starnik is 2/10 up. They've lost 1/10 from Sector 1, but it is still an improvement. They are now only 3/10 off Lone Wolf. Can they find 3/10 into the last sector? That is a mighty ask. However, if they can do it, it will be very impressive. Coming towards the finish line now with the tricky high-speed left-hander. They are coming to come across the line with a 130.6. They've actually found 4/10. 4/10 in one sector. Starnik has now put P3. It will be his final time set, but it is in fact a very impressive time. Owizzy comes across the line into the pits. He does not set the lap. He might have validated it. I was not watching. I was watching Starnik's impressive performance. I do not think there's time for him to leave the pit lane. It looks like he's still being put in. Trip Yachts is on a lap now. His teammate could have passed him earlier, but was unable to. Can he now pass the Mercedes ahead of him? Can he pass the Ferrari ahead of him? The McLaren behind is warming the tires up. He's on an outlap. Lone Wolf, who was trying his best to retake his third position that was taken from him by Starnik's amazing lap. Trip Yachts is on to Sector 2 now. I was unable to see the Delta. I do not have a live Delta. I had to wait until Sector 2 ends. Crossing Marshaller, who is waiting, does not want to invalidate anyone's laps. Through the bridge section, he takes a very wide line onto the straight. He's approaching the Sector 2 time delta line now. He is currently 7/10 up. That puts him at a competitive P5 ahead of Marshaller. Trip Yachts is flying. Can he find another 4/10 like his teammate, like Starnik did? Starnik almost cuts him off. Maynard impeding. Hopefully does not affect too much position. 7/10 already. Can he find any more time? Can he pass Lone Wolf? Comes across the line. I'm very confused. I don't know what happened. I was told he was 8/10 up. Unless he was at a 132 and I was completely hyping him up. That might be possible. He might have been at a 132 the whole time. But nonetheless, he still found 8/10. Very impressive. I do not know if this is a dry race. Starnik retires in P3. Brian is not finding improvements. He's currently 1/10 up on his old time, or down. I forgot the term. It might be down, actually. It makes more sense if you're down on time. Kursk, similar, is behind. I don't know if he's improving or not. Marshaller, Sector 2, trying his best to take P4 from Lone Wolf. Brian is on the main straight now. He was ghosting. 9, almost a second down on his time. It's not possible for him to improve. He might have made a mistake. Lone Wolf is close behind. He's actually slipstreaming off the Haas ahead of him. Unintentionally, of course. Kirsch comes into the pits, does not improve on his own time. Lone Wolf, however, is trying his best to gain P3 back. It is possible. It is plausible. And he's done it and taken P2 with it. He's P2 on the grid, taking it from Brian, who was unable to improve. Starnik is down back to P4. Marshaller does not improve, stays P5. So is the Ferrari. So is the Mercedes. Trip Yachts is the sole car out, but he comes into the pits. He will not improve. Owizzy wants me to mention his helmet. Let's go. I do not see his helmet, but I'll mention it when I do see it. Forgive me. Owizzy actually, I'm pretty sure, asked me what my favorite colors are. And I actually did tell him. I actually really prefer red, white, and a mixture of blue or black, or a combination of any. I might have mixed up what I said to him earlier, but that is what I like. Red and white are pretty much my favorite base colors, though. It's the colors I use for my helmet in F1. As you can tell, I really love Charles Leclerc's helmet, and I'm very excited to see Owizzy's now that he reminded me. Good qualifying session, though. Trip Yachts comes into the pits. I think the only car out is the Mercedes TTV. No, it is not. It's actually a Williams of Marshaller. Apparently, it is not going to rain. It is a dry race. So I wonder, what does that mean for people? Kursk is P1. He did not improve on his last time. He actually entered the pits. I'm assuming he was unable to improve. Didn't want to do an end lap, which makes sense. P1 to P9, sorry, is 3 seconds. The biggest jump in time is probably between P5 and P6. 5 tenths. Actually, it's not big. Pretty consistent Downward Spiral. Awizzy is P9 next to his V-Carb teammate Trip Yachts. Our race is going to begin, and it is in fact dry, so it is not going to rain. It might rain later, but I do not have the data for that. Up to the drivers to see. I'm being glazed by Awizzy. Thank you so much. I enjoy commentating when the racing is good, and honestly, it's been pretty good so far, especially qualifying. That was pretty fun to watch. I do not believe we have a prediction for this race, so I'm going to make a prediction. Currently, we have 10 drivers on the grid, 2 V-Carbs, 2 Williams, and a bunch of single drivers. I think the only car we're missing is probably the Aston Martin, and there's another car, and Red Bull. We have everyone else. My prediction for this race is 2 DNFs. I believe 2 drivers will DNF. I believe it's going to be not the doubles, though. I believe both Williams and both V-Carbs will finish this race. This is our formation lap, nothing important, but we could see people running, and it looks like everyone is on medium tires, the yellow tires. It is a good tire to start off on because it lets you go long if you have to, or do a short stint if something happens, like a safety car. So a pretty good tire. I don't think anyone else is on a different tire, but we could check with the detail. Nope, straight mediums. Let's go to Awizzy, if I can see. Awizzy is running what seems to be a red, a white, and a black helmet. I can't get a closer look now. Let's wait until he crosses the broadcast camera. Okay. Similar to the Patrick Bateman scene, very impressive, very impressive. Leah Plays falls behind the 2 V-Carbs, P10. She should actually have a bunch of soft tires. I don't know how many she gets to keep from qualifying, but I think she has 2 still. So I think Leah Plays is the only driver to have fresh softs, which might be useful, might not. I do not know what's going to happen. A safety car. A red flag is also possible with the tight streets of Singapore. If someone crashes out in a bad spot, red flag, which would be very fun. We've actually never had a red flag in the Golden Racing League. Not even in Monaco, which was the most surprising. So it will be a first in the league to have a red flag. That to my knowledge. I don't know if it was Season 1, but Season 2 and 3 have never had it yet. Drivers are warming up their tires now, trying their best to get their tires up to temp into turn 1. Kirsch has to maintain his position. This is probably the best opportunity to overtake someone at the beginning, as after this is pretty much a game of overcutting, undercutting, and holding position for way too long. However, it's also the best time for a crash, and the best time, I mean the time it's most common. Kirsch slowly enters his pit box to get a good start, and he does. So does the Haas behind him. Lone Wolf is missing. Lone Wolf is slowly going to his pit box. Trip Yachts is disqualified, which just means he missed the pit box. He's still racing. Our fire red lights will come on soon. And here we go. 5 red lights into turn 1. And we're off. Kirsch starts off well. Lone Wolf might have got a jump. I can't get ahead. Kirsch covers off Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf covers off Brian, forces him off. Brian's now ahead. Brian might get the better exit off turn 3. He does not. Lone Wolf maintains his P2. Brian trying his best to get ahead. Starnick P4 still. Don't think anyone actually changed positions besides the Ferrari, who's down in P9. P qualified P7, I'm pretty sure, earlier. We can actually check positions gained. TTV, the Mercedes, is up 2 with the red Ferrari down 3 positions. Behind the V-Carbs, who both moved up 1 position. Marshall is down 1 as well. Starnick fighting with Brian for P3, the podium position. Starnick is looking for a second podium after his win in Imola. Wonder what has happened. Nothing crazy so far. No major damage to my knowledge. It seems as if most overtakes were fair besides the Ferrari, who drastically fell down. I wonder what happened. He is now up on Trip Yachts, however, trying to fight a Wizzy, the lead V-Carb at the moment. It is 31 laps of racing in Singapore, which might be too much in my opinion, as it is very boring at some point as a driver. As a commentator, it depends on the racers, but as a driver, when you're just racing by yourself for 31 laps of Singaporean streets, it does eventually get tiring, but let's see what happens. Can't be worse than Qatar. Kursk maintains his lead. Here is our possible race strategies. There is a 1-stop and a 2-stop. I wonder what people are going to do. This higher deck here is horrible, in my opinion. While it is possible to take your mediums for maybe the 1-stop of 14 laps, it is going to feel like garbage. But as I say that, there are drivers like Marcy who would then 0-stop just to prove a point. Kursk is gapping by 1.6 seconds. Brian is close to Lone Wolf. Brian was P2 at one point, only lost at the last second to Lone Wolf at the end of qualifying because he was unable to improve. But he has just set a purple first sector. He is gaining on Lone Wolf, 4/10 down. He's within DRS. He's one of the only drivers within DRS at the front. However, is it going to be enough? DRS will be activated coming out of this tunnel section. However, it is too short to overtake. His best opportunity is the next straight or the main straight, but he is losing time at as the tight corners here really are hard with the third gear as you follow a driver. Marcy tells me Marcy can only 1-stop, 0-stop in the rain. Thank you, Marcy. TTV currently is 2 positions up, similar to a Wizzy. A Wizzy has passed Marshaller and the Red Bull, so the Ferrari of Sinofy. A Wizzy is having a good run so far. He's fighting. There is slight contact and what looks to be slight damage to one driver. It is the Ferrari with minor front wing damage. Actually, might not be minor, might be major actually. He's missing not the end plate, but the whole left front wing. Sinofy loses position to Marshaller. Marshaller does not have damage, and around Singapore, any damage is bad damage. Well, there's no good damage, but it's even worse damage. Owizzy is now looking to catch up to the Mercedes, who has gapped everyone behind. There is now effectively 2 trains. The Red Bull, the Ferrari having damage is not good for its race. He now needs to either pit or survive until the first pit stop, and a 1-stop with damage is practically not possible. But he is still fighting the V-Carb. He is not giving the position up. They are still fighting. Hopefully it's fair. But however, with damage, it's pretty much guaranteed someone's going to complain with a ticket, which is fair. If you get damaged, something had to have happened. He's trying his best to keep up, and he's in the wall, and Sinofy retires. That is a safety car on lap 3, which happened in the Tier 1 race. An immediate safety car occurred because of damage to a Ferrari, actually. So honestly, Ferrari is not having a good league race in either tier. I am sad for Sinofy, as you know, you want to race and things happen and now you crashed out. So hopefully he can walk away somewhat amused. Suck to have him walk away depressed and upset at the league. However, a safety car does reset the race. The Ferrari's curse. Sinofy, I understand. As a Ferrari fan, I hate everyone. Curse fakes out a pit stop, I guess. That's what it looked like. It's okay, Sinofy. We'll get a 1-2 on Monza, I swear. Actually, you're probably not. It'd probably be a 1 at max. Not a 2. Sinofy left the session. Goodbye. In the pits comes the Mercedes, actually. Mercedes and the Williams of Marshaller. No front wing change for the Mercedes. Is the Williams going to replace the front wing? He is not. So it looks like they just pit to pit. They come onto the hard tires. This might be a good idea, as now you get a free pit stop. You do lose positions, however you have a pit stop on everyone else. Leah Plays comes into the pits as well for the same strategy, so the Williams does a double stop. Marcy's telling us we're not winning in Monza, however we are winning in real life. Come on, believe in Charles Leclerc. I don't care for Hamilton. Anyways, Kursk is still P1. No damage, no penalties. No one has penalties, actually. It is possible they have track limits already, which they do. A couple track limits already are here. Not that much, though. It seems like no one else has damage, as everyone who has damage has already pit. The V card pair are up 4 and 6. What I don't get is how they're only up 2 positions for Trip Yacht, as they started next to each other. So shouldn't that be 4 and 3? I don't know. The game tells me 2. So Trip Yacht is only up 2. Actually, I can't comprehend the idea that the V card switch positions. My fault, which makes sense. Wizzy's P5 with Trip Yacht's P6. This is a good reset, as that's everyone catch back up. It happened early, so the gaps weren't that big. However, there was still gaps. Ah, so Mercy won both times. Charles Leclerc won. Mercy, I'm gonna buy you a ticket. You're going. I'm sorry. I gotta have this happen. I can't afford this. 2 new cars come into the pits, and it's the Mercedes. Starnik comes into the pits. And so does TTV. TTV actually might have come into the pits just to put on mediums. No, it's front wing damage. He got front wing damage. Well, Starnik does not have front wing damage, leaves the pit lane on hard tires. I guess he understood that it might be a better idea. Even though it's late, it's still a good idea. TTV only pit because of front wing damage. Marcy is going to cause Troy to not win. I hate you. And Leah plays it up to P7. So, honestly, alright. Pretty good, pretty good. Marshaller is down 1 position. Leah plays up 3. The V-Carbs are up 5 now, and are 5 injury. Oh, the V-Carbs have not pit, which honestly is not a bad idea. I do think either plan right now, if the safety car happened any earlier, it would have been not pit. If it happened any later, it would have been to pit. But right now, I think it was like in the middle of what to do. Is like a 50-50. So, hopefully, it's close. Closer to better. We can actually see a Wizzy special helmet as a tribute to the commentator, which is me. Thank you. The safety car should be in around lap 6, I believe. Maybe this should be 1 more lap. Xenophi calls another pit. Not another pit stop. Xenophi is welcoming, thanking people. I can't talk. It's saying you're welcome for the safety car. Which, you know what? Thank you, Xenophi, because you made something happen. Honestly, it's actually in this lap. Xenophi actually caused something to occur, so I congratulate you. Even if you didn't finish the race, you at least attributed to something happening which might cause an effect later. And that is the Ferrari way, just to be there. The safety car is in this lap. Kursk is going to lead the safety car pack. He is P1. I do not believe you're going to really lose or gain positions on a safety car restart. I think it's slightly too hard. That's with the tight streets. I think the best track is probably Spain to get a safety car restart position. But honestly, I expect everyone to maintain positions here. It's just not going to happen. Kursk gets a gap to Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf gets a gap to Brian. Brian gets a gap to Wizzy. And as you see, yada yada yada, no one really actually did anything on the restart, which is fair. The advantage here was not the position, it was the gap is now reduced, which is good enough. The question is, who is going to be the first 2 cars to fight, and who is going to be a 3rd car to do something about it? Down a position goes the Mercedes. Back up a position goes the Mercedes. He's fighting the Alpine. The Alpine goes back down behind the Mercedes. Starnik, who actually came out ahead, gets it back. The Mercedes goes off wide. They're close within the corner sequence. Mercedes only edges out slowly ahead on the tight streets of Singapore. Leah plays down back to P9. Kursk has yet to gap Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf has yet to gap Brian. A Wizzy has not been gapped. The first gap we're going to see is Marshaller from Trip Yachts. Marshaller did not. Actually, Marshaller did pit under the safety car for hards. So his hards might not be faster than the warm mediums just yet. He is playing the long game. And in the wall he goes to get front wing damage. Oh my gosh. Marshaller is now being caught by the Mercedes of TTV, who qualified ahead of him, I'm sure. Passes him. Marshaller now has front wing damage and has to decide whether to pit or to stay out. He is still in the race, however. DRS is enabled. No changes are going to occur just yet, as everyone is still too far. TTV up 1 position from his qualifying position, so he's up 2 P6. He was last after the safety car, up 4 positions in 1 lap. Cena5 mentions he only got points before Ferrari. Forgive me. It's actually my fault. I make sure your car never works. I actually like rig your car. I just don't like you. I'm sorry. Owizzy's up to P4. P5, V-Carbs are having a great race after qualifying. They qualified low and they're up high right now. Hopefully they can maintain 7 laps in. TTV up 1 position as well. The top 3 have not changed. Kirsch has gapped Lone Wolf, but Lone Wolf has not gapped Brian. Brian is still behind in P3. He might lose it here in the tight bridge section. It is very hard to keep up here. The dirty air is king. As in king, I mean it will mess your car up. But Brian actually gained. Brian gained in the tunnel section. And he's going to maintain his position coming onto the straight. I think there is DRS here. There is. He's going to gain even more. Brian might actually overtake Lone Wolf. We're going to keep watching. Not here, however, because the corners are too tight. But if he can maintain the gap into the main straight, into the corner, he might have something. He might be too far, however. He's now 6/10 down. Owizzy is our first penalty. 3 seconds down. Brian is not going to overtake as he lost too much time in the final 2 corners because of dirty air, which is understandable. This is what happens when you're in Singapore. Too much dirty air to do anything, honestly, but he almost had it. Owizzy is our first penalty. 3 seconds. We'll see if that really matters. Penalties either don't matter because everyone has one, or they do matter because no one has one. Currently, he's the only one. TTV passes. No, TTV does not. Trip Yachts is passed by Starnick. The V-Carbs, for the first time, are split by 2 cars. Trip Yachts is falling behind. Starnick is trying his best to keep up. Marshaller is still on track. He has yet to pit on his damage. He's still ahead of his teammate Leah Plays. Leah Plays is P9 after the retirement. She has moved up 1 position because, as I said earlier, if you don't crash, you get up. Marshaller is currently our first driver to potentially crash again because as damage happens, you're just going to have to keep going in the wall. Hopefully, though, he stays out, as I don't want to see Williams retire. I don't want to see anyone retire, actually. It's cool, but I kind of feel bad, so no retirements. Three-way battle happening here between the V-Carb of Owizzy, the Mercedes of TTV, and the Alpine of Starnick. They have all caught up to the V-Carb. The V-Carb did not pit, while the cars behind them have. TTV technically is on the freshest tires as he pit twice. Ooh! Alpine slightly touching Starnick. The Alpine slightly touching the Mercedes. Does not look to be on purpose, however, it does cause him to almost go into the wall. He's able to recover. I don't think there's any damage there. He should catch back up as the fighting is intense and he has clean air for a little bit. TTV gets ahead of the V-Carb, but it's a right-hander, so it has to fall right back behind. The Mercedes did catch up, like I said. However, so has Trip Yachts. Trip Yachts is catching up to the cars. Starnick is on the inside. He might take the corner now. He might be on the inside. He does as the V-Carb goes wide. It's now a right-hander, though, so he might regain it. He is in the wall. Both are in the wall. TTV gets ahead. Damage for the first V-Carb of Owizzy. The Alpine is unable to get back on track right now. Marshaller passes. Starnick is now last. Sorry, not last. He's now 8th with damage. Owizzy has damage. He's still ahead. He lets Trip Yachts pass him as Trip Yachts does not have damage. Owizzy has no front wing. And he goes wide to avoid hitting the wall. No safety car, though. Very surprised. 2 cars going into the wall. No safety car. I don't think they were stuck on track long enough to warrant a safety car to the game. And into the runoff goes a Wizzy, thankfully. He's going to have to then back out of it so he can get back on track. Hopefully he didn't just damage his rear wing, as having rear wing damage means your game's over. The car is now the worst thing to ever control. It is practically like driving with 100% worn tires that will never die. Starnik comes into the pits first. As he was ahead, he has damage. That's why I'm saying, you hard racing Singapore, the benefits are you might get a position, and the losses are you're gonna crash out. Things could happen. Awizzy makes it into the pit lane. I am unable to see if he has rear wing damage, but he should be able to replace his front wing. Trip Yachts is now the lead V-Carb. He qualified ahead, lost it to Awizzy, but is now back in front, P5. TTV has had a great recovery drive. He benefited from the crash as he was able to pass quickly. Slight oversteer right there. TTV is now P4. The top three have not changed. Marshaller is back up to P5. The crash also helped him as he was able to get back ahead. Is he going to pit at all, or is he going to stay out on the damage? He's being caught up by Trip Yachts. Trip Yachts as, again, the lead V-Carb. Personally, I would have pit by now. However, Marshaller thinks he's good enough to stay out, and if he does, he could. TTV gets the third penalty, sorry. Brian got a penalty earlier within the chaos that I did not notice. TTV has also a 3-second penalty, so was Brian. This actually hurts Brian's chances of getting ahead, as even though he's still with Kursk and Lone Wolf, he has not been lost. He's within DRS still, both of them. He now has a 3-second penalty, so if he does pass one, he has to gap them by 3 seconds, which might not be possible here. But, like I said earlier, if the penalties keep ramping up, this might mean nothing. That was actually a pretty good shot that the game has given me. What the heck? Kursk P1 still with Lone Wolf P2, Brian's P3. TTV's had a great recovery drive so far, up to P4, has a penalty. Marshaller is P5 with damage, able to maintain P5. Trip Yachts trying his best to pass him. Trip Yachts as the lead V-Carb is now being slowly gapped by him. Starnik P7 as he had a pit off his damage. I don't think he has rear wing damage. Awizzy passes Leoplays in the pit. Leoplays comes into the pit lane. I wonder what has occurred. I wonder if she replaced her front wing or just tires, as it seems pretty early to pit, as she already did pit during the safety car period, but as again, the tire deck here is horrible. Lone Wolf takes the position from Kursk. As I was talking about Leoplays in 9th, Lone Wolf is now up in the P1. Kursk down P2. Brian is somewhere. I can't see him. I only see this Mercedes. Into the pit lane following Kursk, which is a good play. If you get passed during a time when you could technically pit, coming into the pit lane immediately could mean you can undercut them. You're already going to lose the position now, you might as well pit. So, in the pit lane is Kursk and Brian. Brian follows him in, as he might as well, as he's already P4. Both of them are in the pit lanes. Now, the question is, are you going to undercut, or can Lone Wolf overcut? With a tire deg here, I think it is possible they undercut Lone Wolf. The question is, how soon can they undercut? Lone Wolf is currently P1 by himself. Marshaller is P2. Kursk is P3. Despite the pit, he came out P3 with Brian P4. TTV is P5. He would have been ahead of them if he didn't have to pit earlier. Brian and Kursk are fighting, which could actually affect if they can catch up to Lone Wolf. If they keep fighting, they actually might not be able to catch up. I was scared Lone Wolf, Brian was in the wall for a second. Brian might get the position because he's on the inside now, but he might be on the outside next. No, he's on the inside. Kursk cuts Brian off perfectly, does not let him by. That was a risky move, as if Brian was too far in. It would have taken them both out. They're both still in. Good hard racing. However, that probably cost them a couple seconds that Lone Wolf could have used. Lone Wolf does not come into the pits yet. He stays out. Lone Wolf seems to be going for a one-stop. It is possible Kursk and Brian are also one-stopping. However, they one-stopped early, meaning that their hards near the end of the race are going to be horrible. Also, Lone Wolf could benefit from a potential safety car. My controller turned off. That shouldn't happen. There you go. Sorry. I was so distracted. My controller died. That was fun. Brian seems to have backed off from Kursk to let them catch back up. Marshaller is still P2. TTV is still P5. Leah Plays is still P9. Wizzy is still P8. No major changes so far. Leah Plays is doing her best to stay on track and not get a penalty. The Williams drivers are actually have so far been one of the cleanest drivers on track with the least penalties given. I believe the first penalty I've seen for a Williams driver was Marshaller in Imola, and it was only for 3 seconds. So far, they have done a good job staying on track cleanly. Leah Plays his P9 with Marshaller P2. I said that earlier already, but P2. He's being caught by the championship competitors as they are on fresher, undamaged cars. However, he's doing a good job in P2. If I was Marshaller, I would probably pit the same lap Lone Wolf pits. And he's pitting now, actually. Lone Wolf is coming into the pit lane as of now. Our current race leader is now in the pit lane, coming in for hard tires. Is he going to come out ahead? Marshaller takes the lead. Marshaller is now our lead Williams. This might be the first time a Williams has led the race. I do not know for certain, but currently a Williams leads the race. A Wizzy complains about his penalty. Like I said before, you are welcome to try to appeal it. However, we need to see proof that the penalty was unfair. Marshaller is currently in the lead. He is not going to pit. He's going to stay out. A safety car here might actually give Marshaller the lead in the race with a free pit stop. Maybe, maybe not. It might be too far, but it is possible. A Williams 1 with a Kicksauber 2 and a Haas in 3rd is a very weird thing to say. But Marshaller is currently leading our race. Kursk is catching up on the fresher hard tires, undamaged. Brian's doing his best to keep up. Brian's currently doing a great job keeping up. Lone Wolf has been undercut by the 2 drivers ahead of him. However, he's on 2-lap fresher hards. The question is, what was worth more, the fresher hards or the position? Brian gets another penalty. Brian, who already had 3 seconds, now has 6. He now has 6 seconds of penalties. Not what you want to hear in the slightest. Hopefully, he can try to appeal some of them. However, he has to have a good reason behind each warning that led up to that penalty. Currently, no drivers are close. TTV comes into the pit lane. I wonder what has happened, as again, he's already pit twice, and his tires should be fresh. Does he have damage? He does have damage, which explains why he needed to pit. He might have been losing time. Did he have damage because of earlier contact or the wall? I do not know. Brian overtakes Kursk, but they're off track and they're fighting. Brian still has a front wing, thankfully. Brian takes the position. That was, in fact, hard racing. They were both off track at one point. I think the position was gained on track, maybe. I was not watching that carefully. But Brian is now P2 and currently net P1 because Marshaller has to pit still. However, the penalty he has at the current moment, if we put leader on, puts him technically P4. Net P4 with the penalty. So he's currently 1 now, but the penalty is not going to help him keep it. Kursk is looking to try to take it back, and he is almost, they go side by side, there's contact, bumper, and the wheel's off, and Kursk has spun. Damage for the Kicksauber, and damage for the Haas, and the Kicksauber has spun. Lone Wolf is now up into third. Kursk is able to recover the car. I do not think he has damage, as he did not hit the wall, and he does not. So the Kicksauber spun and lost the position, but has no damage. The Haas maintains his lead, but has minor front wing now. And that is, again, hard racing. I don't think either were trying to be stupid, and none of them were trying to do anything dumb, but they were racing so hard that damage has happened, and that might be a penalty for one driver later in a ticket. Lone Wolf has benefited by that contact, as he is now up in the P3. Again, because of penalties and pit stops ahead, is now net P1. Kursk's spin has put him 7 seconds down off Lone Wolf, so now he has to catch up to Lone Wolf and then pass him, as neither have penalties. Starnick, I believe, on interval still, is 10 seconds down. Crazy contact that happened, as that is race defining. That is still hard racing, but that might have been enough to be a penalty for one of the drivers. Not intentional though. I think both drivers are just trying their best to fight for P1. They're both trying their best to win a race. Marshaller is still P1 as of late. No penalties, but he has to pit still. And he's doing a good job staying out on damage. I wonder how much faster he would have been with an undamaged car. He got his damage by himself as he hit the wall, but as of late, he's still doing a pretty good job with the damage. It is only an end plate, but that's still a lot of loss in Air Force. Delta, is it Air Force? Aero, Jesus, Air Force, Aero. Pretty good job. I wonder if he was able to stay out for a couple more laps. He's leading the race as long as he can, honestly. Probably hoping for a safety car to allow him to keep, probably not P1, but P2. A car is stuck on track. It's TTV. TTV is on track, hits the rear wall. He might have rear wing damage. TTV now is dead last with no front wing. TTV has no front wing, maybe rear wing damage, and is now in last place. The Mercedes, who was up 4 positions earlier. Leah plays benefit, moving up another position. She is now P8. She is keeping it on track, and she is now benefiting 2 positions. Trip Yachts, who had earlier contacts, P7, back with his V-Carb teammate of Awizzy, who was ahead. Actually, I was incorrect. Awizzy was the one who had damage. Awizzy now P6. They're both up position still. Starnick, who had damage to the V-Carb, is P5. They're looking to get one more position to get back up to their position they truly qualified at. Another car is off. Trip Yachts! Trip Yachts is sideways on track. No safety car, but front wing damage again. Another front wing damage. Trip Yachts is trying their best to make it back into the pits. TTV gets a 10-second penalty for crossing the pit lane. He might just retire because he might have rear wing damage. No, he stays out. Sorry. He crossed the right line on pit exit. But he might have rear wing. He can't control the car. And rear wing damage is rough. It's really bad. It's like driving with like negative what's it called? Traction control. No rear wing downforce. It practically puts you in the wall at every turn, and at Singapore it's not going to be a good time. And while I don't pray that he crashes, I would love a safety car. But not for him, though. Just if a safety car could just happen with no drivers crashing, that would be perfect. And I would like to see what that means for this race. Brian has caught up to Marshaller. Marshaller is P1. However, he still needs to pit. Marshaller probably should come into the pit lane now. He's done enough laps, in my opinion. Kursk gets a penalty for 3 seconds. Brian is trying his best to come fight. Marshaller comes into the pit lane doing the exact thing I said would be best for him to do, as you've already led the race enough, and right now is a perfect time to come into the pit lanes. But Lone Wolf also follows him. Lone Wolf follows him because he has a damage to his front wing, meaning Curse is now back up into P2. He does have a penalty that he needs to negate from Brian's. Brian has 6, Kursk has 2. That's a 3-second difference that he needs to get up to. However, Brian has damage. Starnik passes Marshaller, but Marshaller didn't replace his front wing. Marshaller doesn't care. Marshaller is going to stay back on track. He wanted to be ahead of Lone Wolf so badly, he didn't replace his front wing. He's still on track with a damaged car, but with fresh slicks. Let's go back down to the our runners. TTV goes back into the pit lane again, but doesn't replace his front wing, which I am very surprised by, as he didn't need to get new tires. Is a possibility he pit onto the wrong tires that were already old and he needed to pit, or else he was going to crash again, which makes sense. Brian gets another penalty. It's now at 9. He's still net P1, but Kursk needs to only catch up by 3 seconds. If you look at penalties now, we can go check real quick. Penalties are at 9 and 3. Meaning if Kursk can gain 3.5 seconds, he's back to being net P1. Brian is probably suffering the most because of his front wing damage. And because we're on strict corner cutting, he's probably not even intentionally doing it, or even like accidentally. It's just happening because the car can't be controlled. And while I do agree that we need strict corner cutting, I wish the game would have a better system. As the game sees you touch the white lines, you can lose time and the game will still give you a penalty for it. The game has no care for how it happens. As long as it happens, it happens. And that's pretty annoying. Kursk is slowly gaining what he needs to get P1. Lone Wolf has to now pass a Williams and an Alpine to get up into P3. And from P3, technically, he has no penalties. He doesn't even have to pass both the Haas and the Kicksauber. He just needs to get close to them. TTV also has 9 seconds of penalties. Trip Yachts has 0 penalties. He's currently in 8th. He's catching up to the Haas. He's not actually catching up. He's been lapped, I think. I believe he's been lapped. So I can do leader. He's been lapped. Lone Wolf passes the Williams with the faster tires, the faster and undamaged car, which makes sense. Marshall did a great job already. His next target is going to be the Alpine of Starnik. Starnik is 3 seconds ahead, but 18 seconds down on everyone else. Starnik qualified, I believe, P4. They're going to go back to P4. Marshall qualified P5. He's at P5. The only major change is our top 3 now, which didn't change actually until recently. And they all probably have a ticket against each other. Kursk and Brian had contact. Lone Wolf didn't have contact actually. I'm pretty sure Lone Wolf had damage into a wall. So there's going to be tickets. But whose fault is it? I do not know. No replays. This is not an official stream. Leah Plays is P7. 12-second gap behind her. 10 laps to go. So if she only loses 1 second per lap, she maintains P7. But she needs to do her best to not get a penalty, stay on track, and not hit the wall. Which, for a Williams, that seems not that bad. They've been pretty good at doing that. So she needs to only lose 1 second per time, and she'll tap to the wall doesn't count. Lone Wolf passes Starnik. However, he loses another 2 seconds ahead. So Lone Wolf has a different issue. Unlike Leah Plays, he needs to now gain 2 seconds per lap on everyone else. Leah Place can only lose 1 second, and Lone Wolf has to gain 2 seconds to catch back up to Kirsch, to catch up to Brian. Brian is losing time to Kirsch. Kirsch is gaining. He needs another 1.5 seconds to be net P1. Brian needs to not lose another 1.5 seconds, or he needs to pray Kirsch gets another penalty. I believe no one's fighting just yet, so I'll very quickly check race directory to see the most recent warnings. So we're gonna put some people on blast. Brian has not got another penalty as of late. Kirsch is on 1 warning. They just changed that? It'd be kind of funny if he just changed that. He did not. So ahead of us, Brian has gotten a warning, and he is not going to change it. Marshaller overtakes Starnick with damage. Marshaller overtook an Alpine with damage in Singapore. Marshaller is having a great run as of late. You can tell me someone else in that car, and I would be not surprised, because Marshaller has been quick. Back to what I was saying, Kirsch has 1 warning, meaning 2 more track limits means a penalty. Brian is on 0 warnings, but he's already on 9 seconds. Lone Wolf, I did not check. TTV gets another penalty, 12 seconds. Like I said, it might not seem like it's worth finishing, but he's still going to get points. Everyone who crosses the line today gets points, as long as you don't get disqualified. We can go check really quickly Lone Wolf. He is our sole McLaren. I think he is on a warning. Yes, he is. Let's see if there's anything else he has done. He's only had contact, which I don't think gives you a penalty yet. No, he has 2. Oh, no, wait, 1. 2. So, like I said, Lone Wolf is on 2 strikes already. I believe you only get 3 strikes and you're out for a penalty, meaning Lone Wolf cannot get track limits if he wants to catch up. Kirsch cannot get track limits twice if he wants to catch up. And Brian can't get track limits, I guess, 3 more times. So it is going to be a battle of catching up as fast as you can while not crossing the track. Kirsch, however, has lost time since I've last talked. He was at 7.4. He's now at 8.5. He has lost a second. There is still a long race to go for him. He only needs to get 2 seconds. So he doesn't need to push that hard, but he still needs to push. Brian needs to push as hard as he can. He's just slapped, I believe, Leah Place. Tribut's got a penalty, 3 seconds. So everyone in the top 3 is pushing for different reasons. One's pushing the gap, Kirsch is pushing the close, and Lone Wolf's pushing, I guess, to close as well, so I guess I kind of lied, but whatever. Marshaller is doing a great job, P4. He's probably not going to get any further positions. However, he gapped Starnick by 30 seconds. What the heck? When did that happen? When? Why? Does he have damage? Let's go check real quick. He does not have damage. What happened? Marshaller passed Starnick and has now gapped him by 30 seconds. I don't think it was a proper gap. I believe Starnick probably had a minor mistake, because there's no way Marshaller's that quick. For 3 laps, he's gapped him by 10 seconds each lap. Marshaller might be quick, but that's insane. Starnick is currently out in P5. He's only down to 1 position from qualifying, so not bad. He's in a good finishing position so far. No penalties. There is 2 cars, and TTV's in the wall. TTV is in the wall, and I think it's a virtual safety car, which is, in my opinion, the lamest thing that can happen. Oh, no, a full safety car. Thank you. A virtual safety car is lame. Nothing happens. But a full safety car, now things happen. And now it's going to get fun, in my opinion. Marshaller gets a 10-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. Did he overtake? Marshaller might got a penalty for lapping his teammate. That is horrible. That sucks so much. Marshaller has now got 10 seconds during the safety car period for lapping his teammate under yellow flags, which he was not allowed to do as you're supposed to follow behind. What I'm surprised by is it happened so quickly, because usually it gives you a chance to give it back. He just got it immediately. I wonder why. Unless he did it in the yellow flag section with TTV happened, where he crashed. But I think he crashed here, so I don't know how he got it. Which, it does suck for Marshaller now. He now has a 10-second penalty with the safety car. Who benefits the most? Anyone who doesn't have a penalty. So Leah Plays, Starnick, and Lone Wolf, who have 0 penalties, are going to benefit now. Who's going to benefit the most from that? Lone Wolf, as he's now technically going to be P1 as the safety car happens. Marshaller passes him in the pits. He does not pit, so Lone Wolf pits and no one else does. He's actually going to lose another position to Starnick. I'm surprised Marshaller doesn't pit, because Marshaller could have pit right now and not lost the position, I believe. Where is he? He would have lost the position to Starnick and Lone Wolf, but Lone Wolf is already ahead of him, so the only person he would have lost the position to was Starnick. And now he's going to lose a further position. So Marshaller should have pit to serve the safety car, to serve the penalty, and he could have got a front wing. And honestly, who knows how fast he would have been up a front wing. But he doesn't. He stays out. Hopefully that's not a mistake. Hopefully he actually helps him out. We'll see. Lone Wolf does pit, and now he's on fresh tires. The race is not over. There is still 6 laps to go. Lone Wolf overtakes Marshaller, but they give it back. Is it too late? I don't think it's too late. Actually, no. Marshaller has time to pit and still come out ahead. Marshaller should pit. Marshaller will lose 1 position. That's honestly a good deal for 10 seconds of penalties. Marshaller can pit right now, lose the penalty, get a front wing, and come out P5. P4. And honestly, I think that's more than worth it. So, that's my opinion. But Marshaller is in the car, and he does not pit. Marshaller stays out. Marshaller stays out with a 10-second penalty. Lone Wolf stays out following Marshaller. Starnick is catching up. He does not have a penalty. He's 43 seconds down, so he was gapped by Marshaller earlier, but he's going to catch up, and he's going to benefit because of 10-second penalties. Awizzy is P6, Tripbot's P7, and Leah Plays is P8. One thing that is possible, it's possible Marshaller is going to contest the penalty post-race, and he does not want to pit because then he can't contest it, because he already served it. But now he's risking the fact that he might not be able to contest it properly. Let's say the appeal's denied. He then did it for no reason. But it must be a good reason that he's willing to bet that he's going to win. I can't talk. That was a lot. But Marshaller stays out. And the crazy thing is, I think he can pit again. Marshaller was so far ahead of Starnick. I think Marshaller has a chance to pit and still come out ahead. But Starnick might not have the delta, so Starnick is pushing because he doesn't have to have time delta on him. But I do not know. He is gaining. Our car, who is last, is, I think, not Leah Plays. It's going to be Awizzy. Awizzy has to catch up. The safety car is probably going to be in the next lap. The next lap is going to be in. Ten laps to go. Safety car is in this lap. Brian is going to lead following Kirsch. So the opposite of earlier. Lone Wolf is P4. Lone Wolf has to... What's happening? That was weird. What is happening? No one is following safety car procedure from the looks of it. But they're starting. Lone Wolf passes 2 cars before the finish line. He has to give it back. He's past Kursk. I don't know what's happened. And in the wall goes 2 cars. Kursk takes Marshaller from under him. I don't know how. Marshaller now loses a position to both. Starnick now as well, as was in the air. That was a very bad safety car start, I'm not gonna lie. However, the person who benefited the most is now Brian. Brian was ahead, he left, didn't have to worry about what's happening, and he now only needs to gain 4 tenths to keep first place. Brian might be a Grand Prix winner here, but it depends on if Lone Wolf fights Kursk. Starnick passes Marshaller. Marshaller is P5, but he already has the gap to a Wizzy. A Wizzy is P6. He did not catch the safety car. A Wizzy not only didn't catch the safety car, he now has minor front wing damage. Trip Yacht's got 2 penalties for cutting white lines during the safety car restart. Kursk gets the penalty. Kursk now has a 6-second penalty. Brian's now net P1. Brian is now P1. And he needs to not lose 3 seconds. He doesn't need to push. He needs to not lose 3 seconds in the next 4 laps. 4 laps to go, and Brian wins. Kursk is P2 with 6 seconds of penalties. Lone Wolf is now net P2. Lone Wolf is now net P2. However, I'm wrong because he's still ahead of Brian. Brian's P1, Lone Wolf's P1 technically. As long as Lone Wolf does not get a penalty of any amount or lose a further 3 seconds to Kursk, he's net P1. Starnick is P4, no penalties, the same as Lone Wolf, but he's too far to gain anything. Besides Kursk, actually, maybe. Marshaller is P5 with a penalty, but he's P5 with the penalty. Insane racing today. However, I don't think everyone's going to be happy. But like I said earlier, it's like hard racing dialed up to the extreme. But at the same time, at that level, technically penalties should be given out. So there's gonna be penalties, but later. The question is who did what and where did it happen. Safety car restart is probably gonna be a big controversy, as it was a very late restart following Brian, and then into the first corner sequence, multiple cars were near the wall. But I'm gonna need to see the replays for the stewards. I wonder how it's gonna affect the race, because at the current moment, Kursk is catching up to Brian. I don't think Brian pit, but I don't think... Actually, Brian might have pit. Brian's on softs, so that must have happened recently. So Brian actually did pit under safety car, and he's now on softs. However, softs are horrible, and he might have tire deg that's too bad to do anything of right now. Kursk is on mediums, so is Lone Wolf's also on softs. Lone Wolf might have picked the wrong tire, same as Brian. They're both on soft tires, and they're losing time now because the tires have too much deg. This is horrible. In the moment, it was a good decision, as softs would let you catch up as the safety car ends. But now, the tire deg with the softs, they barely lasted for a qualifying lap. Now they're doing 3 full laps, pushing on them, and they're losing time. Kursk didn't pick softs. He picked the mediums. They're lasting longer, and he's catching up to Brian. He's losing Lone Wolf. He already gapped him by 4. Lone Wolf is still close enough to get P2 if he does not lose another 2 seconds. However, Kursk needs to gain 3 tenths, and he's P1. 3 tenths is not a lot. If you go to check the incident report, is there a chance that a penalty could change this? Warning for Marshaller, warning for Wizzy. Kursk is already on his most recent penalty. He did not have any more warnings. So he's not going to get another warning unless he does something egregious. 2 laps remain, and he is within the 3 seconds. Kursk is P1. He's lost P1. He's back to P1. This might happen for a little bit. Kursk is P1. Lone Wolf is P3. Stornik is P4. Marshaller has property gapped a Wizzy, and he's gonna be P5 for a while unless something happens. Leah plays, does not have a penalty, and this is the interval, so I don't think she's gonna get a position from the penalties, but she's gonna finish P7, as Chip Yacht's penalties is now 23. Curse is catching up to Brian. This is entertaining. Might be a little legal. We'll see later. Yellow flags into the first straight. It might be a pit stop, or it might just be... maybe a pit. No one pit. Okay, it was just strange. Okay. 1.8 seconds. Kursk is catching up. Lone Wolf is losing time. Lone Wolf, thankfully, does not have penalties. He's on his last warning. There's no more warnings left. He can't afford to gain a penalty, but he can't afford to lose Kursk. However, Brian's 9 seconds means he's still going to finish P2. However, Lone Wolf has officially lost the lead that he technically had. Lone Wolf is now back to P2. Curse is up into P1. Brian's down in P3. Starnik is down too far to affect anything. So is Marshaller. Yellow flags again. 2 cars overtaking. Nothing happened. Nothing ever happened. Always been on nothing. What is occurring? Kursk is now within DRS range of Brian. He might get Brian on track on the final lap, even though he doesn't have to. However, he knows he can't afford to stay behind Brian because Lone Wolf's catching up. I think. Actually, maybe not. Lone Wolf has already been gapped by another 6/10. Brian knows he can't afford to stay behind Kursk, though. He needs another 3 seconds on Lone Wolf alone to keep his position, which might not happen. Marshaller overtakes Starnik, but loses it, does not keep it. Into the tunnel section, Brian goes. Brian goes tight. Kursk goes wide. No changes. There's going to be DRS now. Kursk picked the right tire. The right tire was the medium, and he did a great job on picking it. Down the inside goes Kursk. Takes the lead of the race. Brian down into P2. Lone Wolf now is 8 seconds down. Lone Wolf might not get P3 if he doesn't gain a second. He actually gained 5/10 as I said that. He has to gain time. Okay, my fault. Lone Wolf. Kursk is going to cross the line as the current Grand Prix winner. From pole position goes Kursk to win the race. Brian goes P2. Lone Wolf is in 3rd. However, the time penalty isn't enough. Is he going to take it? He does. He's now P2. P3 is Brian. Tripp gets the penalty for unserved penalties. Starnik is going P4. He kind of went a little wide there. It's okay. Starnik crosses the finish line. Soon to finish P4. Marshaller sadly finishes P5. P6 is going to go to a Wizzy, who was our lead V car for the majority of this race. He was not lapped. He might have been the only car to not been... Sorry, he's the lowest car to not been lapped in P6. Leah Plays and Chip Yachts both were lapped. With the watch until he finishes it. Either of a Wizzy. Gonna watch for a little bit, but Wizzy's going to finish in P6. I think he's going to be up. We can actually check positions gained, and a Wizzy and Leah Plays are the only car to move up. Everyone else either DNF'd or didn't do anything. A Wizzy finishes the race P6. It says P5 because Marshaller DNF'd. And that's not what happened, so I have to take a picture of that. He did DNF late enough, in my opinion, that he already crossed the line a while ago. Our race winner is Kursk. Our fastest lap is Kursk. And our most overtakes is Starnik. Leah Marshaller is P6. I wonder how Wizzy passed him. Because technically, Marshaller was ahead of a Wizzy before. I don't know what happened here, even with the penalty. But Kursk is P1 for Kicksauber, and he might take the championship lead. Lone Wolf is is in the lead or still in second, and Brian is in third. What a race! People are going to make tickets, and the race leader might change, but honestly, that was a good race for me to watch. I was right. It was two DNFs, and they were not from the double teams. It was only one team each. So my prediction was correct. Please make tickets. The stewards will look at them. That was a good race, guys. You all did your best. Happy to watch it. Have a good night.